Today was Jeans Day at SimQuest, and you had to pay $2 to wear jeans, and I paid $2, and I had to wear charcoal pants and a tie and a blue blazer. So I'm going to take my hat off, if you don't mind. I paid $2 for the privilege. Thank you. I had to smile at Dave's comment about the sweat equity thing. What Dave didn't realize was that when I went to work for McAuliffe's in 1969, I'd been working in New York and down in Connecticut for a bunch of years, and I came into McAuliffe's, which was as he said, a regional office products company. It wasn't really in those days, but a company that belonged to our family. And I came in as vice president. And about a year later, the chairman of the board and the CEO called me in and said, the board has met and decided to elect you president and CEO of McAuliffe's. And I said, Mom, do you think I'm really ready for it? So much for sweat equity. So thanks for the comment, Dave. To begin with, I want to add my welcome to the incoming freshmen who are coming to what I believe is America's finest small city, Burlington, Vermont. And for those of you who are already from Vermont and Burlington, you know what I'm talking about. And now, we all the old people down front, otherwise known as adults, absolutely are certain that you students plan to spend every minute of your college career slaving away at the books in your dorm room. But that's my man. But I do urge you to get out sometime during the 4 years and enjoy the many cultural opportunities of downtown Burlington. As I was walking up with Dave, I leaned over to him, I said, most of those kids want to know what time the sun goes down and how far really are we from Church Street. Right? Is that right? Okay, good. Now, on behalf of all the hundreds of volunteers I've worked with over the years, I want to thank the Board of Trustees of Champlain College and anybody else who was involved in this for this wonderful award. It's so true to Champlain's traditions to shine a bright light on the value of public service in a community. Knowing that I would be making a short series of remarks caused me to reminisce a little bit and then think about why volunteer community activities became such a central part of my adult life, because I didn't really start doing this stuff till I was about 30, which was too bad. You have an opportunity to get going. And what, if anything, might be useful for the incoming students who have your whole productive life in front of you and have to figure out what priorities you're going to use for your spare time? Now, we know what some of those priorities are going to be, and I don't want you to tell me, but other priorities, there's a lot of things to do to get done while you're here. So first, the Burlington area and the state of Vermont are special places, and you will figure this out. With the ancient tradition of town meeting here and the focus on localism, local control, community control, folks just naturally feel empowered in Vermont. And decision makers usually pay attention to the opinions that are freely and publicly expressed by just about everybody. Vermont is the place where I have an opinion and I want you to hear it. And in big states like New York, they say, sit down and write a letter, and we'll get back to you in a month. In Vermont, they say, come on up front and tell me what your opinion is. So Vermont is a unique place in that regard. So starting now in your college years, know that there are many unmet needs and challenges in our community, and it beckons to you to get involved. And Champlain has a wonderful support system to encourage you to do that. They are really committed to volunteerism and community activity. Second, maybe most important to me, being involved in worthy undertakings has its own reward. I number among my most treasured friends hundreds of very special people that I've worked with over the last 40 years. Remember, my definition of people who give their time to help others in their spare time are very special people. My friends are always saying to me as we travel around the state, Pat, you know everybody. Well, obviously I don't know everybody, but at golf courses and at meetings and in general stores around Vermont, people are always coming up and saying, how have you been, relating to old things that happened many years before. When for years at a time I worked with them on healthcare, education policy, urban planning, Lake Champlain environmental issues, and many, many other absolutely fascinating issues. And I never would have met them otherwise, except for these activities, and my life would have been much less rich. So it has its own reward. Third, it's great and important to have a mentor and a little push. My mother, Helen Robbins, who Dave Boardman and others down front maybe knew many years ago, she's been long gone, who was president or chair of nearly every women's organization in Chittenden County and beyond. She was active in city boards and commissions. She was head of our family corporation, as I told you before, long before that was a common aspiration for women. She used to say, to those whom much is given, much is expected. She meant that because the community had been so good to our business, and therefore our family, we had an obligation to give back. My father, who was a physician, wisely took her counsel seriously and was, among other things, the president of the Burlington Board of Aldermen for many years and active in politics for over 30 years here in Burlington, and one of the founders of the Greater Burlington Industrial Corporation, the group that first attracted IBM to Essex Junction to one speculative building in 1956 after the air base shut down and all the mills shut down and thousands of people were out of work in Burlington. So Mom was our mentor and our push. Last, maybe most important, you need to believe that you individually can make a difference, that you can sell a wild idea, like finding $8 million to build the Church Street Marketplace, closing 3 major downtown streets permanently in the process. There are still people in Burlington who say, Pat Robbins, he's the guy that closed those streets in downtown Burlington. Damn him. Because they still want to go through those streets. Anyway, the ability to see a difficult project through the hurdles and unwilling to take no for an answer. Bob Miller knows all about that, at least 5 times. And occasionally upset somebody with your determination. But I'm telling you, never lose a friend and never burn a bridge. You don't have to. You can always have honest disagreements and you can yell at each other, but you always want to shake hands, never burn a bridge behind you. Another one of my mother's brilliant ideas. A very special friend of mine, now deceased, used to tell me, Pat, we have within us all the things we need to be who we want to be. The only thing that stands in the way is our fear. And he talked about the fear of not being good enough, the fear of rejection, the fear of humiliation, and probably not as importantly, the fear of physical harm. My friend John had that right, and I would urge you students, or everybody here, to think about that. Excuse me. Because those fears not only stop us from taking big challenges, they get in the way of our relationships with family and loved ones, our peers at school. And as such, I think they really stifle our growth. So, thanks again for this great and wonderful honor. I wish all the freshmen a memorable college life, further enriched by your upcoming volunteer experiences. Aren't we the luckiest folks in the world to do this in Vermont?